Okay, folks, you wanted to know how harmonic series and organs work, so we finally have one to show you. And you can see to either side of me the computers represent the stop jams on this organ. This organ is a Baroque instrument. It was built in the 18th century by Christian Miller, and it's located in the St. Bavo-Kerk in Haarlem, Holland. It's a monster of an instrument. It's 64 ranks on 3 divisions. So in other words, even though this console has a 4th division keyboard, this particular organ is only functioning on these 3 manuals. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the harmonic series demonstration that I showed you in the organ webinar so that you can actually hear what's going on. And the important thing to remember about pipe organs is that they're nothing but a big set of whistles, and they're kind of an analog synthesizer. You're sitting at the console of a wave mixer, and that's really what's going on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate certain kinds of stops in the harmonic series on this instrument. Then I'm going to go to another instrument and show you some more things about different stops. So let's start with where we started in the organ webinar with a demonstration of the harmonic series. If we play this note, and this is an 8-foot stop, you're going to hear that note. The next overtone you recall in the harmonic series is the octave. So if I can pull a 4-foot stop and play this note, you're going to hear this note up here. Alright? And let's do that. We'll pull the 4-foot stop. We'll play the same note, but you're going to hear it an octave higher. And by the same token, if I pull a 16-foot stop, play the same note, you're going to hear it an octave lower. So what an organ does is it's deliberately playing with the harmonic series. It's mixing the overtone series. So we can actually play several notes at the same time. I'm pulled 16, 8, and 4, so you're going to hear this note, you're going to hear this note, and this note all at the same time. And just to make it simple, let's do it this way. That's the 8-foot. Let's add the 16. And now let's add the 4. Let's add a 2, which is going to be this note up here. Okay? So that's all an organ is doing. It's only mixing the harmonic series, the overtone series. Now, let's do something interesting here. Let's go to the pedals for a moment. And I'm going to play this middle C here on the pedals, on the 16-foot stop. Now you'll notice over here on the stop jam, there's a little stop here that says Rohrquint. But you'll notice it's not divisible by 2. It's not a 16, 32, 8, 4, 2. It's not part of that sequence. It's 12, all right? And if you do the math, what this is actually telling you, and it's even telling you in the name, the Rohrquint, it's the 5th. In other words, this is telling you that this particular stop is going to emphasize the 5th. In other words, when I play the 16-foot, you're hearing the note C. But if I play the same note and pull the Rohrquint, it's going to play the note G. Hear it? I'm still playing C. Now what that does, what that mutation does, and that's a mutation, and there's lots of mutations on this. Here's another one, a 3-foot, which is going to be a very high G, way up there. What this does, if you use it in conjunction with a fundamental pipe like a 32 and 8, it's going to set up a sympathetic vibration, and it's going to make that note sound all the stronger. That's the 16 with the quint. That's the 16 without the quint. Now, what is very interesting here is this organ has a 32-foot pedal stop. This one of those great big tower pedals, and you can barely hear it. And I'll play the lowest C, and that's almost at the very limit of human hearing. So if you want to reinforce that 32-foot fundamental and set up a standing wave vibration inside the building, you add the quint. And now you can even feel if the house is shaking. Add the 16, even more so. Add the 8, even more so. So that quint is setting up a beat frequency with all of the other octave notes. And remember, that fifth is the first overtone in the harmonic series. So all an organ is doing is it's mixing the overtones in the harmonic series. That's very, very simple. All right, now, this instrument is the cathedral organ of the Cathedral of Hereford in England. And the reason I'm using this instrument is to show you this is a 4-division instrument, so we have some stuff up here on this manual. But what I want to do on this instrument is I want to show you the mutations. Let's use our 8-foot stop again. We're going to add the octave, first overtone, another octave higher than that, and so on. But now, you recall I said there are mutations. Mutations are the stops that you're going to find with fractions in the stops. On this particular instrument, on the great division, which is this division here, there is a stop called a 12th, and if you look at it, it says 2 2/3, all right? And again, a third, anytime it's telling you that the length of the pipe is now divisible in thirds, the overtone that you're going to hear is the 5th, all right? So let's pull the 8-foot stop and hear what the 5th is going to sound like. The 5th will be the G. Okay, now we're going to play the same note, pull the 12th, which is that 2 2/3 mutation, and you're going to hear the note G way up here. Okay? Now, again, it adds. Now let's take it out. It's a very subtle difference. Now, look at this stop here, folks. This is called a mixture, and remember I told you about what mixtures are. Mixtures are those stops that are the only stops on a pipe organ that control several ranks of pipes at the same time. This mixture tells you it's a 4-rank mixture. So in other words, when I pull this mixture, and remember what I said, they live in the upper registers, and you use them when you want to add brightness or clarity to something. That's with the mixture. That's without the mixture. All right. Now, there's another kind of mixture that we're going to look, or pardon me, mutation that we're going to look at. Because remember, I said that if you look at a mutation stop, usually they're the stops that are in fractions, or like we saw on the Bavo-Carrick organ, it's not a number that's divisible into 2s but 3s. So you have the 12, you have the 3-foot stop, those are also mutations. But most of the time on a modern instrument, you're going to see a mutation with a fraction after it. So let's go down here to this division. This is the choir, incidentally, called the choir. This division is under expression, so I can use the pedal here to diminish the sound on the choir. All right. We'll do the same thing here. There's our octave at 8 feet. There's our octave at 4 feet. There's our octave at 2 feet, playing the same note. And here's the G, the 5th, the Nazard, the mutation. There's the note G, and I'm still playing C. So, when we add it together, we're playing C and E, or pardon me, C and G. All right, now, you're also going to find on a modern instrument, you're going to find this kind of mutation right here. It's called a tierce, or sometimes it's going to be called a larigot, or some name. But the important thing here is the number, 1 3/5. That tells you this is the next major differing overtone in the harmonic series. That's going to be the note E. So if I pull the 8-foot, I'm going to play the C and you're hearing the C. You're now going to hear the note E way up here. When I play this note C, if I pull that mutation, the tierce, there's the E. There's the E right up here. So what you can do, if you'll notice, is if I pull just those two mutations, the Nazard and the tierce, the 2 2/3, the 1 3/5, is I'm playing both the note E and G up here by playing this note. And if I add a regular 2-foot stop or 4-foot stop to it, I'm playing the entire C major chord by holding one note. There you are. So again, all organs are doing is they're simply wave mixers for the harmonic series. And the more stops you pull, you'll notice what's happening is as the organ adds more and more overtones, the sound gets richer. Okay, that's how it works. Very, very easy. Now, there's one final thing that you'll notice I just did. I pressed this little button here, and all the stops that I had pulled moved back in. These are called combination pistons, and they allow an organist to change several stops at the same time. But you'll notice on this instrument here, there are these tilt tabs, which would be on the stop jamb, usually above the console like this, and the stop jamb would be over here. So these little tilt tab things would be up here. These are our couplers, and they allow you to take any stops that we have up here. This is the swell division on this instrument. If you'll notice, the coupler says swell to great 16, swell to great, swell to great 4. Let's say I have those stops pulled on the great manual, and I want to add all the stops I've got on the swell manual to the great manual, so I'll couple it by pressing swell to great, so all of these will sound down here. That's with the swell coupler. That's without the swell coupler. Now, I'm gonna make the great manual very muddy. Let's get rid of the clarion and just do that. Okay, that's the great. That's the great with the swell coupled. Now, if you'll notice over here on the couplers again, it says swell to great 16 and swell to great 4. What swell to great 16 means is all of these stops that I have up here on the swell manual will couple to the great manual, but they'll couple an octave lower than what you're playing. So if I pull swell to great 16 and play the same notes, you're going to hear those added to it. Hear it? And I'll remove the coupler, add the coupler, and it's playing those notes but an octave lower on the great. By the same token, if I add swell to great 4, what I'm playing down here is going to sound an octave higher from the swell. So let's do it. Here's our great, add swell to great 4, and it's playing an octave higher. And when you add all all 3 couplers, you get a nice rich sound. Now, there is one final thing here to note about these kinds of couplers, and that's over here. And I think I talked about this in the organ webinar that I did before, and this is called a unison off, all right? Let's go up here to the solo division. Okay. Now, this division has a unison off coupler. Where is it? I just saw it here. All right, solo unison off. Now you'll notice that the solo manual can be coupled to itself. So if I add the 16-foot coupler, it's going to play all of this in addition to the octave lower. So let's add it. Hear it? If I add solo octave, in other words, couple the solo manual to the solo manual, it's also going to play that chord up there. So let's do that. There it is without it. Now, you'll notice what I've done is what I'm really doing is I'm playing this chord, and this chord just by playing this chord. You'll notice there's something here called solo unison off. And what that's going to do is it's going to turn off the chord I'm playing so that you're only going to hear that one and that one. So let's do it. And now we've turned it off. And now it's back on. So that's what couplers do. You can couple on these more modern instruments, you can couple divisions to themselves, either higher or lower, and then of course you can couple divisions from one division to another. Most organs are built so that these lower tier divisions, the solo, the swell, the choir down here, couple to the great, or in German this would be the Hauptwerk, Oberwerk, and Positiv. And then all of that, of course, can be coupled to the pedals. This has a nice, deep, rich, open 32. It also has a bombard. You know what the purpose of that is, just from the sound of it. So anyway, that's it, folks. You can do a lot of stuff with these instruments, and there's one more thing we've got to talk about, and that's harpsichords, because they work the same way that pipe organs do, and we'll give you a little demonstration of that. On a harpsichord, the difference is the main division, which on a pipe organ is this division here. On a two-manual instrument, the great would be on the bottom, but on any pipe organ with more than two divisions, and folks, pipe organs, standard pipe organs are at least three divisions, so the great division is always in the middle, except in France. Okay, but that's another story. All right, a harpsichord has the major division on the bottom manual. So let's do the same thing. There's our 16-foot stop, and if we pull the 8-foot stop or the 8-foot choir, it's going to sound an octave above. And if we pull the 4-foot stop, it's going to sound this note 2 octaves above. And if we pull the 2-foot stop, this is a really nice big German harpsichord, so it even has 4 choirs, in other words 4 sets of strings on the lower manual. If we pull the 2-foot stop, it's going to play this note C way up here if I press this one down here. So when you get it all together, you have a nice full rich sound. All right? Now you'll notice that a harpsichord can do exactly what a pipe organ does. You'll notice it says couple. That's a coupler. We just saw what couplers were doing on pipe organs. That means you can throw the choirs of strings from the upper division down on the lower division. So let's look at the upper division here for a moment. This one has another choir of strings on the 8, and it's now got a 16-foot choir, which means it's going to sound this note C down here when I play this one. Add them together, get a nice rich sound. Now, you'll notice over here it says Laute, which is German for lute. What that does is it muffs or muffles, puts a little damper on the strings, so that when you pull it, it's going to be a slightly different sound. You hear the difference in sound. And the same thing in the pedals. You got a 16-foot bass. Add the 8-foot, you'll hear the 16 and the 8 together. So it's basically the same kind of thing that you're doing. This also has nice combinations. And we get all 4 of them, and we get a nice... By the way, folks, if you are in person with a harpsichord, they're just about that loud. This one's a little more loud than a normal harpsichord would be because it has so many choirs. But it works the same way. The only thing that's different, you recall from the webinar that I said before, is a harpsichord, unlike a pipe organ, does not have mixtures, and it does not have mutations. It really doesn't need mutations because it's a crystal clear instrument anyway. And the other thing you'll notice about a harpsichord It's very unforgiving. You have to be extremely accurate in the attack of the notes, otherwise everybody's going to hear about it. But anyway, that's the Harmonic series on pipe organs and harpsichords. They're nothing but big wave mixers. All you have to remember is there's three types of stops: foundations, mutations, and mixtures. There are couplers that you can add more richness to the tone, but that's basically it. You're mixing waves in the Harmonic series. That's all you're doing. So let's go back to where we started and play a few bars from the end of this prelude and then the few bars from the beginning of the next fugue. So on. How do we know what to play it on? Okay, you saw me start the prelude or end the prelude here, go up to the Bovenwerk on this Dutch instrument to begin the fugue. So how do we know where to play things? Well, the sad thing is there's not a hint in any of the music. You just kind of have to guess, but there are little clues to figure out what you have to do. The big chords here in the prelude are a clue, I think, although there are some organists that play the prelude very softly. But the chords to me are a big clue that you should at least be loud. And the other clue here in the fugue is toward the end. You've got more chords over massive long pedal solos. So you have to examine the score. You have to figure out what resources you have on the organ and so on and so forth. And you'll notice something here. I forgot to tell you about combinations. If you look at the stop jam over here, I'm going to press these white buttons, or you can do it with the feet pistons, and all the stops are going to change all at once. Same thing here on these white buttons. Those are called combinations. Organists will preset what they want in each combination button. A Baroque organ obviously did not have that invention. So in other words, you had to have assistants with sheets of paper that told them when you wanted certain stops to be pulled, and they would pull it while you played the piece of music. On a modern organ, you've got the convenience of combination pistons that allow you to do that yourself. So lots to learn when you play the instrument, but they're fun. Okay. So that's it, Harmonic series and pipe organs, folks, and meet Bruno. So thank you all who made the donation to the virtual pipe organ crowdfund, because I'm having a blast. All right, we'll see you later.